Well, today I have the pleasure of finding myself at one of Nashville's most distinct restaurants. Located on Rutledge Hill near the heart of the city, Husk is a restaurant which adheres to the belief that local foods and farms matter. So I'm lucky enough to have one of the front of the house managers here with me, Rory O'Connell, and fellow plant enthusiast, I might add. And we are standing at what I call the grand entrance to Husk, which just has a beautiful assortment of plants going on here. Rory, tell me a little bit about some of the plants here in the landscape and how you might want to use them here in the restaurant.
Well, just these past few weeks we put in the hibiscus here, which is pretty much pregnant with blooms right now, just ready to explode.
Yep.
We're most likely going to use that to make some really interesting vinegars. We'll use it as some garnish in the bar area.
Fun.
They're beautiful, great coral color. It's a nice pop for the restaurant as you kind of enter here.
So. Just about to open up, and over here to the right here we see we've got some just a large swath of rosemary.
This rosemary is amazing. It's been here since the restaurant opened. It's so well established. It stays fresh all year long, really fragrant. We use that in the bar area, and it's one of the best garnishes that we can really find here on the property for all of our drinks in the winter, in the spring, and right through the summer.
Fantastic.
It's really impressive.
Kind of bordering that rosemary, we have just large perennials of Baptisia here.
Yeah, I mean,
tell me a little bit about these beautiful.
We cut this back last fall, and this just has exploded this spring. All April and most of May, we use this as a cut flower in the restaurant. There's some beautiful Mother's Day arrangements, and it was spectacular.
Well, scattered throughout the property, we have a mix of fruit trees that are just beautifully placed within the landscape. And being in an urban environment, space is at a premium.
Yeah.
And here we're standing with some Little Miss Figgy
I know, I love
fig
that
trees.
name. It's so great.
Yeah.
We just put these in a couple months ago. I don't think that we were sure we were going to have any fruit, but they're really just exploding with fruit right now. Tiny little figs that will get to about 1 inch in diameter, I think. Beautiful little plant, and we've actually used the leaves.
Yeah, tell me about that.
We used the leaf as kind of like a vegetarian rennet to make a cheese with goat's milk that came out like mascarpone. Really interesting and delicious. I did not even know you could use fig leaf in that manner, but just crush it up and just add it to the cheese, let it steep, and it's fantastic.
That is a really unique way. Everybody's always so familiar with figs and using, the actual fruit themselves, but
Who knew?
Doing a little bit more research, you can get creative with the leaves as well.
Our chefs love to kind of play with the ingredients in the property and find new ways to utilize almost everything, because really you can, if it's edible, you can use it all.
And one of the great things about this Little Miss Figgy fig tree is that it's compact grower, whereas most of your typical fig trees are getting up to the 10 to 15, even 20-foot range. We have this one beautifully tucked away. That's going to only mature at around 4 to 6 feet, so you're really optimizing your space.
Yeah, it's perfect for the space.
Getting to use it in the restaurant. And one of the first features of the landscape that you'll notice when you pull into this restaurant is the majestic trees in the front of the property. You have this large 200-year-old willow oak.
I mean, honestly, Matt, when I drive into work every day and see that tree, it's one of my favorite things about the property. The fact that it was here when Andrew Jackson was living here in Nashville is pretty remarkable. It's just a spectacular tree, huge with beautiful boughs, living at this promontory of the height of Rutledge Hill overlooking the city. It really is a landmark for the city and for the restaurant. It looks great in spring when the leaves fall off. In the fall and winter, it's illuminated at night, and it's just spectacular.
Fantastic. And the other thing about this kind of tree is that, maybe either due to some of the construction that's going on around the city, it's developing a little bit of stress. Working on this property, I've done a soil sample, and we've noticed that the pH of the soil is upwards of 7.2, and willow oaks are starting to get a little stressed at that point. And so we're working together with you on a program to help bring this pH down to really bring it back to its natural beauty. So Rory, one of the things I find so unique and fascinating about this restaurant is how the diner is almost immersed in this edible garden setting.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about the layout of this area and how you all use it.
For us to be able to educate our staff as well as our customers by showing them how vegetables and produce are produced and grown, people really have no idea how cauliflower looks when it's in a garden, what these flowers are and why they're a cruciferous plant, how kale is grown. And so for us to see how to tend a garden, to show that to the staff, and for the guests to be able to explore this garden and really understand produce is really, really useful, and it's an amazing tool.
Which I really feel also kind of helps to bring value to the plant, to the whole process itself, that it's not just magically boxed in and it comes into the restaurant, but that really brings that diner home in a relationship to their food.
It takes some love, it takes some work, and it's worth it. Everybody always wants to know what is growing out there. Are those grapes? Are they vines? They're
right.
pear trees. This is a l'Espalier method, French method of growing fruit trees. Fruit trees are really inherently weak, and by arboring them this way, it supports the bough. It also prevents disease and rot by letting air flow through the trees. It also buffers the garden. It can shade the garden, and it maximizes your space. You can grow this in a walled garden, in a small backyard. It takes a little bit of work. We had some help getting it to this place. You know, it would take somebody who's very patient to do this at home themselves, but they're beautiful.
Well,
and the fruit is delicious as well.
Yeah, and the fruit is coming on, and you can tell that the fruit trees themselves are just so bountiful. They're so healthy. You can tell by the color of the leaves, so you guys are really taking good care of them.
We'll harvest those in the fall, and we'll make compote and preserve those for the winter.
Fantastic. Well, as we dive deeper into the property, we are greeted with a beautiful set of raised beds that are set in here, the concrete walkway bordered with stones. Rory, tell me a little bit about this space and how you all utilize it.
This is our herb garden, herb and edibles. We use this to grow mints and chive, chervils, parsley and nasturtium, strawberries down here at the other end. The line cooks and bartenders come out here daily to get their mise en place ready for the evening and for lunch. And it's beautiful as well. We have some flowering borage here, which is edible. Really gorgeous spring onion in this second bed here as well. And the strawberries this year have been mostly for the birds and squirrels, although we've had a couple kids out here helping themselves to them. This is our first year putting the strawberries in, so we're allowing them to establish, but there's been some delicious harvest there.
Well, they're going to take off like weeds and
absolutely.
you know, triple in size by next year, and hopefully you get a little bit more for the restaurant. But tell me a little bit about the space in general. We're behind a beautiful historical landmark to the restaurant.
The rear of the property here, this was the carriage house to the second owner of the property. Robert Dudley was the 51st mayor of Nashville. He was the second owner. He bought the house in 1887.
Wow.
This was built in, I think, 1888. We use it as a private event space. It can seat about 28 people. We can do cocktail parties for about 60. We do weddings here all spring and summer. It's a really beautiful space that we've retrofitted with barnwood.
Yeah.
And it smells a little bit like a rick house. There's definitely the Angel Share bourbon from the bourbon barrels that we have decorating the space.
The smell of wood
and the smell of wood and
fires
smoke
in the air,
which is pretty prevalent here at the restaurant all around.
You really feel, I guess, this is kind of the area to me that you really kind of envelops the garden and the taste and the closeness to agriculture. So
absolutely.
It's a really key spot. So within every good edible garden, we must have the pollinators to attract the beneficials. Rory, I see that we're standing amongst some agastacia as well as some amsonia. Agastacia, this beautiful purple variety, is I believe it's blue boa that really attracts the honeybees to the garden, really kind of keeps the edibles getting pollinated and whatnot. So fantastic to see this. And also you're telling me a little bit about a little bit of a Lynchburg legend here that we have planted here over with this plant. Tell me about that.
There's a gentleman named Jack down in Lynchburg who has a famous whiskey, and every night he'd sit on his porch, pour a glass of whiskey, grab a leaf of tansy from his yard, muddle that into a glass, and that was his nightcap. It's really interesting. It brings out almost a banana quality to the whiskey, and we're happy to have it here in the garden.
Wow. I really can't tell you how special it is for me to kind of walk in this property with you. You know, I know it's kind of near and dear to your heart because you hear it every day, but I feel it's kind of indicative about what Husk is about here with incorporating a little bit of the edibles and as well as the tansy. Does that feel about right to you?
Yeah, we like to have a story for everything. Each dish is a story. Each plant here in the garden has a story. What we're doing here is telling a story. So.
That's great that the diner really gets this full experience.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.